Got up at about 3 a.m. this morning, drove out here to Manhattan, Kansas, and I'm about to run a 50K race. I put that in quotes because I'm training for a 50 miler next month and had to run a 50K this weekend anyway, so found this race like 2 or 3 days ago and decided to come out and do it. But I'm not going to be running at race pace. I'm just going to be taking it easy, treating it like a training run. So yeah, it's the first annual Tallgrass Tribute is the name of the run, and there's a 50K, 20 mile, and 10 mile option. So I'll be doing the 50K today, and I just checked in, and they gave us this sweatshirt, and I'll be going with number 43 today.
All right, let's get going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and good luck to you.
Great race.
Thank you.
Make sure we cover everybody.
So a little over a mile and a half in, and at the start of the race they have a little out and back section that's about a mile and a half, and then you hit the loop. So for the 50K it's 5 loops on the Kanza. Still starting the first loop right now. A little over 2 miles in, there's a really pretty good sized hill here. I don't know if you can see up there, but those little dots are people. I'm actually familiar with this because I used to live out here. So I used to do this loop, but the hills are pretty good, decent size. Not really bothering me now, but I'm sure on loop 5, it won't be a whole lot of fun. Made it to the top of the hill. Usually in the summertime, this is all green. So it'll come back to life soon. But still, really amazing scenery out here. So it's gonna be a fun run today. On only coming up on a little under 3 miles now, so. Just left the first aid station, right around mile 5. Good, good.
You got this.
Just finished the first loop and a little over 7 miles in. I looked at my watch and said it was about 600 feet of vertical gain for the first loop. So that'll give you some idea of the climb on this run. So yeah, about to start loop number 2. So made it to the top of the hill for the second time. Sun coming up. That was pretty cool. A guy playing a banjo just kind of hanging out here. He was on the first loop and I didn't capture him, so I'm glad I got him on that second loop. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, coming up right around 10 miles, so about a third of the way through. Coming up on the third aid station here, about mile 10 and a half. As you can see, all the hills, for the most part, well, not all of them, but a big chunk of the hills are burnt. And that's because they do controlled burning here every March. So this is by design. And in a couple of months, this whole area will be lush green. And you can see the greenery coming up now, actually, in the soil. So it doesn't look too pretty now, but it's amazing out here in the summer. So if you get the opportunity to make it out to Manhattan and the Flint Hills and run these trails, it's definitely worth it. It's a lot of fun and great scenery. I'm coming up on a half marathon and I'm gonna start dialing back the pace because I'm going a bit too fast. I ran a full marathon last weekend. I've been doing some really tough training this week, some intervals, hills, and the purpose of today's run is just to go out and run on fatigued legs and clock in 32 miles. It's not to run at race pace. I should also note, if you're watching this video because you're thinking about getting into ultras, it's important not to overtrain. I'll give you an example. I was prepping to do a 50K race called Razorback Running Revival. It's down in Arkansas in the Boston Mountains. A lot of elevation change. I think it's like 6,000 feet of vertical gain. Really technical trail, a few different river crossings. Hands down, hardest race I've ever done. And I would put it above a lot of 50 milers when it comes to overall difficulty. But when I was training for that, I decided to run the Kansas City Marathon. And I did that like 3 or 4 weeks out. And I was just gonna go out and enjoy the run at an easy pace. And I ended up PRing, get my best marathon time ever, went all out, which was a huge mistake because then I was fatigued, overtrained. And once I got to the 50K, I ended up injuring myself and I finished the race, but it was brutal, man. So gonna learn from that mistake and not do that again. So just gonna dial it back and have some fun out here. All right, starting loop 3 of 5. I should also note that there's a aid station at the beginning of each loop. So there's one at the beginning of each loop, and then there's one at about the halfway mark when you're running the loop. So 2 per loop, and I think it's like 5 or so miles per loop, something like that. So, and the aid stations have Gatorade, water. They also have goo, honey stinger, basically everything that you need. So I got my own nutrition in my vest, but they've been pretty well stocked for the most part. So back at the top of that hill for the 3rd time. Doesn't get any easier. Now, for this race, the terrain is a mixture of gravel, some rocky parts, and then dirt road. So I'm wearing trail shoes, and I would recommend wearing trail shoes for this race. Now, there are some people who I saw here who are running this with road shoes, and I think you could get away with that. I don't think it's gonna be too bad. I think that if you have road shoes and you don't want to buy trail shoes, you should be okay. But if you have both, I'd recommend coming out here with the trail shoes, especially if it rains, because there's a lot of dirt parts. So if it rains the night before or the day of the race, especially since it's springtime when they're holding this, you could be dealing with a lot of mud, and you'll want trail shoes in those instances.
Let's go, let's keep it moving down the road. I can't discriminate because it's dusty and it's old. All that I can do is put my arm around a friend and leave it to a cigar to throw caution to the wind. Speaking of wind, those dust devils are fun to see until they start hurling tumbleweeds right in front of me. A sunny beach would be better than this dusty avenue, but I guess there's some things that I just have to do. Dim the lights, let the fireflies roam, so we can dream about the day we hitch a ride home. Until then,
just started loop number 4. About 18 and a half miles in right now. So legs are starting to feel it now. Well, that hard training this week is starting to catch up with me. So I'm not feeling bad or anything, but I'm just gonna take it easy for these last 2 laps and finish off these last, I don't know, 13, 14 miles or so. Just made it to the top of the hill for the 4th time. It's definitely not getting any easier, but only one more hill, big hill, on the next lap. So yeah, doing okay. Starting to heat up a bit. When the race started, it was like 28 degrees, but it's supposed to be about 60 today, but high winds. Starting lap 5 now, a little over 24 miles in. So just one more to go. The hill's coming up though, so that's gonna be pretty brutal. But yeah, just gonna take it real easy this last lap. All right, made it to the top of the hill for the 5th and last time. That last one was pretty brutal, not gonna lie, but it's beyond or behind me. Just about 6 miles or so to go. Coming up on 26, so almost at the full marathon distance. Yep. All right, thank you.
We can take care of all of your mental health needs in a timely fashion. Please, if you need help, if you haven't reached out for help before,
Thank you.
Please consider Katie's way. We're serving everybody. We're going to make the community better. We can make you better.
All right, so I'm just shy of mile 30, and I've finished the 5 loops. So now I'm going back towards where the finish is, but there's an out and back section because I've still got another about 2 miles or so to go. Hey, thanks for coming out.
Sure. You brought the bison with you.
Yeah, I got some video of them when I was going by, so it's pretty cool. In the home stretch now, over there are the hills that I've been running for the last few hours. And down there is the finish line.
Woo! Bring it in, bring it in. All right, David Mitchell from Prairie Village, Kansas.
All right, just finished the race. I ended up coming in at right around 5.5 hours, which is what I was aiming for. I was aiming to come in around 5.5, 6 hours today. And they gave you this medal here. Don't know if you can see it that well with the glare with the sun, but it's for all distances, the 50K, 20, and the 10 miler. So it's a generic medal across all distances. So for this race, if you're just thinking about running your first 50K and you live in Kansas, I would suggest running a race like the Kansas Rails to Trails Ultra, which is also in the spring. It's called the Prairie Spirit Trail Ultra, I believe is what the name is. That one's completely flat, really easygoing course. I have a video up on the 50-mile distance for that one. This one would be a step up from that, just because of all the hills. It was about 600 feet of vertical gain per loop, and there was 5 loops out there. So a little bit more difficult, but it's not technical. So it's not like if you run a Psycho Wyco, which is a 50K that we have in the Kansas City area. That one's on a technical trail, very difficult, lots of hills. There's also the Nighthawk that is in Lawrence. That's a 50K. That one's difficult because it's at night and it's a technical trail. So those ones would be on the upper end of the spectrum from the 50Ks that I've done so far in Kansas. But this one would definitely be an intermediate 50K, I would say. Definitely not difficult, but not on the easy end of the spectrum either. But overall, they did a really nice job. The aid stations were really well stocked. Everybody was super friendly. There was a ton of people out on the course because they started the 20 milers, 10 milers, and the 50K. Everybody started at the same time. So it was pretty busy out there for the first loop or two, and then it kind of died down. And by the last loop, there was just a handful of us that were out there. But overall, definitely would recommend this race. And if you get the opportunity to run it in the future, this was the first one they did. Definitely come out and do it.